Hello and welcome back to the final episode of our 10-part series looking at the 10 major factions within Mythic Legions and then ranking the characters within the corresponding factions. Today, our last category is House of the Nobel Bear. Now this has some of our most recent figures from pre-orders. I think some of the figures in here could be people's most favorite #1 all-time Mythic Legion. So let's see how they stack up on my list. Before we get into that though, this is the last episode of the Good Guys faction, so you'll be able to enter to win Arazak. In order to win Arazak, you'll go to the description of this video, go to the tiers maker list, and then create your own tier ranking for this faction. Take a screenshot of that, post it in the Cabal. Make sure that you tag me though, so that I can see it, because if I'm not on Facebook that day, I don't want you to miss out on your entry. And then we'll do the drawing for Arazak and send that out to the winner. Now, since this is the last episode, I'm feeling generous, so I may throw in a few surprise bonus entry options for you as we go through. As always, make sure that you're subscribed to the channel, and while you're here, go ahead and like the video. It helps us out a lot. And without any further ado, let's get into the House of the Noble Bear. Coming in at 24th place is Thord Ironjaw. Now, if you go back, watch other episodes, I think a dwarf or a smaller character tends to be the last place figure, so probably not too much of a surprise here. I think this guy is going like super crazy expensive. I don't have a problem passing on him. I do like the color of his beard. I think it looks really good. The only problem I have kind of with the look of him is it seems like his beard is like eating his face. It just seems like such a small head with such a large beard. Maybe that's just me. Maybe it's just the angle of the picture. A decent looking figure, but just not really enough going on for me to get real wild about this guy. Next, I have the Barbarian Warrior. And this one is a kind of cool figure. I like that it comes with so many possible options for head swaps. I think overall with this faction, they're a much more muted color faction. So I usually try to go for those brighter, more colorful figures that are going to pop on the shelf. And this one is definitely not doing much popping. As far as Barbarians go, I think it's a good figure. But along with the head swaps, I do like that there are different options for kind of those side helmet adornments, whatever you want to call those, because if it only came with these like horizontal horns, those are probably my least favorite parts to put into the helmets. So I am glad that it comes with two different options than that. Next up, we have Calavius, and I think this figure is my favorite with this style of helmet. I know we're going to see that later on in this faction, but as far as this kind of, I don't know, I think it's kind of like a fencing helmet, kind of like a beekeeper. I don't think beekeepers actually wear that, but for some reason it's giving beekeeper to me. I think he pulls off this helmet the best. You definitely get some unique parts with this guy. I think he looks cool just overall. It's one of those figures that I just see kind of filling in the background of my display. So that's why I'm not super crazy about getting him, but overall I like the idea of him. Next we have a Motu Tribute with Dorina. And this one is kind of your Tila inspired character. This one, I believe, was at Legions Con, and I passed up on her. I like the alternate head a little bit more than the full helmeted head. It makes it look a little bit more Valkyrie looking. Soft goods, red cape. I think that's pretty cool. I may actually, if I had this figure, use that on other characters. Overall, it's doing a good job of being a Motu tribute figure. It looks like what it's supposed to look like. I don't really go for the Motu tributes because if I was, I would want to have them all. And there's no way I'm going to afford all that. So I'll get them if I think they fit in my collection. But this one, I don't really see as much. In 20th place is Brontus. And I always forget that he's a part of the House of the Noble Bear. I think it's just because he's red. He looks like he should be in the Legion of Arathir. And I really like his club. I think it's pretty cool that that's the skull of another troll. I think that's a pretty baller move to take the skull of someone from your own race and then use it as a weapon, probably against either other smaller characters or against other trolls. And I think this is probably the best painted eye in all of Legions. Next we have Kador. I think that's how you say his name. Definitely looks like he should be fighting in the Colosseum. Like the big hammer, comes with multiple other weapons. We don't really see this combination of bare chest with more of a knight's helmet. So that's a cool aspect to him that I think is a little bit more rare. And I think we could probably see some really cool pop and swaps with him. I think it's just one of those more older figures that you don't see as often, so you're not really seeing a lot of those pop and swaps as you do with some of the newer figures. Pretty good figure, comes with a good amount. I don't think he's going to be finding his way into my collection too soon. Torgon Redfin is up there on my list of dwarfs that I like, mainly because of this head sculpt. I believe this is the only time we've ever seen this head sculpt. You can correct me if I'm wrong. I've said before, I really like this style of shield. And as far as dwarves go, this guy looks fierce. And again, he's an older figure, a little too expensive for me to really try too hard to track down right now. But I do think if this was ever a all-star, I would probably go for him. In 17th place, I have the Deluxe Barbarian Legion Builder. Now this was another one that I purchased to try to practice some of my painting skills. Unfortunately, when I got him, I was terribly disappointed because it was too good of a figure for me to want to paint. So I left him as is, at least for now. Maybe eventually I'll try to paint up some of his parts. But as far as a Legion Builder goes, I think he's pretty good just straight out of the box. You can always do some cool pop and swaps with him. I really like the style of helmet and beard combination there. Again, this style of sword is probably my least favorite weapon in Mythic Legions, but as far as your just generic Barbarian goes, this guy's excellent. Ragna Stormforger is a color combination that I would like to see sometime again because I really like this color of blue with the silver and black with the just accents of gold. I think it's a really cool combination. I like her weapons. Now this one, I think they've kind of said that they don't really like the story that they did with her or something like that. That's fine with me. I think this is one of our only dwarfs in this style of body. Like it's more on the goblin body. With other dwarfs we're going to see later in this faction, they're using more of that 1.0 type of body. Kind of unique in that way. Now I can't remember if she was a part of the All-Stars voting before, but it is a figure that I think if it became an all-star, I probably would pick her up. In 15th place is the Half Giant Legion Builder. This is one that I actually just picked up in the most recent in-stock sale, so I don't have him in hand yet, but I will pretty soon. I like this guy mainly for what I'm hoping to do with some pop and swaps. Now I got the accessory kit to go with him, which I think that alone is enough to make it a super cool figure, but I'm kind of more looking down the road at when we start getting Baradak. I think there could be some cool partially armored, partially unarmored pop and swaps that we could see between these two characters. Maybe a little bit with Sir Uxak. I don't know about the color of the Half Giant mixing with the whites of Sir Uxak's armor. I see the blacks of Baradak working a little bit better, but maybe I'll try it out. A step above your Legion Builder is Bolthar the Tower. So it's essentially a very similar figure, just with more of those painted details because it's a named character. I do like the curled horns on his helmet. That's cool. And he's just a little bit more expensive, so that's why I'm going to lean more towards the Legion Builder because I mainly want him for pop and swaps anyway. But as far as a fully painted Half Giant, this is a pretty cool option. And I really like the head sculpt on here. I don't know if this is on any other larger figures. I don't think this is the same head as Ogres because they would have different teeth. But I think that's a pretty cool, like you only get like the chin and mouth, but that just seems very well sculpted to me. In 13th place, we have Freya of Deadhall. This is another kind of one of those more Valkyrie-looking figures. Again, the shield I like, some soft goods parts here. I like the fur up on the shoulder pauldrons. That's pretty nice, and I think it goes really well. And I think we could see a pretty cool version 2 of her eventually, because I could just imagine the details that are on her now just amplified by what Four Horsemen does with their version 2 characters. And I think this one could actually fit outside of your Mythic Legions as well. I could see this being a friend of Thor's, helping him fight some other trolls and frost giants. So you could maybe do some cross-line mixing here with Freya. In 12th place is Cassia. Now, I really like the helmet on her, but then in addition to that, I also like the kind of the fur type cape that she's got. It seems like Atlas and House of the Noble Bear usually spend a lot of their time in the frozen north. Seems like she's definitely going to need this fur cape with the style of armor she's choosing here. It was a cool idea to have this style of sword with her. I feel like we usually only see this with skeletons and like Hagnon type of characters, but it definitely makes sense to have with your House of the Noble Bears. It seems very barbarianish. And again, this style of helmet, I've said before, I think it'd be cool to kind of put together different factions within your Templars. Next is Broder of Bjorngar. This is a pretty recent release, and he comes with a lot of cool parts. I think just starting off, the head is amazing. I really like these sculpted details around the eyes. The beard is, I don't want to say the best, but just out of like a new thing you could add to the super cool beards that Mythic Legions already does, this was amazing. I will say the like shoulder pauldron attachment points to his chest look a little Madonna to me. So maybe I would display him without the shoulder pauldrons or switch those out for somebody else. I like how almost soft the figure looks. Like it definitely looks like it's real leather in his waist piece, even in his pants, his boots. Like I said, it just seems like soft, but in like a Viking way. I don't know. It's hard to explain, but very cool figure overall. Exiles from Under the Mountain make it into the top 10. And this is a pack that I didn't pick up, but I could see myself going back and getting it. This was my wife's favorite of this release, so whenever she likes something, I kind of feel like I have to buy it, even though she doesn't care about the collecting as much as I do. But these guys just come to the nines with details, just from the boots up to the torsos, the shield, the axes, the head sculpts are incredible. Really, the more you look at these two, the more details you find, and this isn't even all that comes in the pack. There's alternate heads, other weapons, and it doesn't stop with these guys. You could do some different popping and swapping with just them or your other dwarfs, your other figures. There's really a lot of possibilities within this 2-pack, and I think it was awesome that they gave it as a 2-pack, because I've kind of said how I think the Undead Builder pack, for me, doesn't work so well because I would want that to be 2 separate figures. And this, you get those 2 separate figures, but within the same package because you're probably going to want both of them anyway. In 9th place, I have the Barbarian. Now this just seems like something you would have to have within your ranks of House of the Noble Bear, and even within your Mythic Legions, whether you have the Deluxe Legion Builder or this Barbarian, it definitely seems like you should own at least one Barbarian-styled character, and this one ranks a little bit higher for me because it comes with several other accessories that you can kind of mix and match to make your own look. Again, I think Mythic Legions are probably the best in the business at doing beards. This beard looks awesome. I like, even though it's not one of those figures that's got the super bright colors, but it makes sense within this faction, I like the colors of browns that they chose. And even though it's not like as plain as maybe the Deluxe Legion Builder, it still has some of those details like in the buttons on the loin piece, the different colors in the feather, things like that that kind of make it stand out just a little bit more than the previous Barbarian. Next is Halir Goldentooth, and this is among the top of my dwarfs. I probably would choose maybe some of the more bright and colorful ones first, but as far as dwarves go, he's definitely in my top 5, probably my top 3. Definitely would love to see this figure reissued because I would pick him up for sure. Similar to what I said about the Barbarian, I like the different mixes of browns. I think even this like copper-ish brown to it is a really cool mixture because it's, it stays within that same color type, but it gives enough variation that you can definitely feel like you're getting some really nice details in this dwarf. In 7th place is Raggor, and this is one that I think is going to for sure pop on your shelf. I think you're seeing some inspiration from Dungeons & Dragons here. Now, this shield is super unique. I don't think we see this anywhere else. This kind of dragon faction logo is not on any other characters that I know of. This is the only way to get it. I don't think this is really up for an all-star or a version 2. I think this is similar to the Motu tributes. It's a one and done. I know it's a tribute to a specific person, so I don't know. I think it would be cool to maybe put it out again and then just do similar to how they did it the first time, where the proceeds go to the family. So one of those figures that's probably a little bit too high on the aftermarket for me to ever see in my collection, but it's one that I'm happy knowing that it's out there in the world. In 6th place is Romulus. This is an all-star figure that I was able to pick up. It wasn't one that I was expecting to be like completely blown away by when I got him, but this figure is a lot better in person than I was expecting. I think the blacks, the golds, the reds all work really well together. The mix of armored and unarmored parts are really nice. It's hard to explain with him because it's such a cool figure in hand, and I think it comes across a little bit in pictures, but it was really in hand that got this guy to catapult up my list. I've said before, we don't have a ton of Mercurians. I think this is probably my favorite of the Mercurians that we do have. Maybe the Lord Bushati would be up there too. It would be a hard contention between those two, but regardless, this figure is great. The mount with the most hype, Bodvar, I think people are going crazy for this guy, and rightfully so. Similar to Alder the Moose, I didn't know that I wanted a moose action figure until I saw it from Four Horsemen. I didn't know I needed a bear in my collection so bad until I saw it from Four Horsemen. I think this is another figure that kind of transcends the line. You can fit this with your other action figures. I feel like Conan is an easy one to put any Mythic Legion character with, but he'll fit in with your Mezcos, maybe even your Marvel Legends, probably your G.I. Joes. Definitely going to be an amazing figure when we get this in hand. And I love that they showed how he stands up on the back legs, and it's even bigger than a troll. So I cannot wait to see the size of this figure. I think it's going to be amazing. I don't think I could ever have multiple, but they've made a bear, so why can't they make a polar bear next, or a panda bear, a black bear? I think we're going to see more bears in the future, and I'm going to need a bigger display room so that I can get those. In fourth place is Nieve. I think this was a bit of a surprise to most people. I think this was one that they saw and they were thinking, oh, this is a cool figure. And then the more and more time that's passed, the more and more people have gotten excited for it. This style helmet, I like the helmet part, but I don't love the attachments. So I'll probably switch those out for something else. But I think that's the very first time we're seeing this type of helmet. Correct me if I'm wrong, but usually the attachments would just be in the top and not the sides. So I don't remember seeing this anywhere else. I like that the shield has those ports for arrows, so you can really show the character in battle. I just really like the idea of a barbarian female character that's not on just that normal 2.0 skinnier body. This looks like a stronger female warrior than what we usually see. In third place, I've got Adamon, another one of those Motu tribute figures that I'm probably never going to get in my collection, but another one that I'm happy to see out there in the world. A really cool head sculpt. I love the axe. I love the shield. So those combinations there is great. It definitely looks like He-Man, but I think it's very passable to not be He-Man if you don't want it to be. So I think they did a good job of the tribute there. I've never really taken a look at the straps that he comes with. I don't think we see those color straps any other time than this figure. So that's kind of an interesting tidbit for him. But yeah, great figure. I know they've said they'd never do their Motu tributes again, but if they did, there would be a run for this guy because everybody wants him. In second place, I have Raggor. You know I love my big figures, and why not a big hairy cow? Got a giant hammer with goat heads. Are those real goats that he just severed the heads from? Are they made of metal? I have them, like, in my mind, they're cast in iron, so he's not so savage, but he's got the skulls hanging from his belt. I'm super excited to get this one. I think this might be my most excited to get in this wave, even though he's not like the figure that he's not my number one, but to get him in hand, I think is going to be so cool. The head sculpt, I think, is incredible. The armor on him. We have some amazing ogre style figures coming soon. And number one, I have Atlas the Conqueror. So, like I said, I'm more excited to get Raggor in hand, but I think I just already know that Atlas the Conqueror is going to be a great figure. I know some people don't love that he's got the asymmetry going on with the like really armored up leg, the really armored up arm, and then the bare arm and the like more boot on the other side. To me, I'm not so bothered by that because I just think overall this figure is put together really well. I like that he comes with those bigger weapons. I like the details on his shoulder pauldron with the bear. I think this is going to be such a cool figure to have posed on Bodvar, and I cannot wait. And here is the breakdown of how I kind of organized my thoughts throughout this episode. I'll leave a link in the description so you can go and get your tiers list, take a screenshot of that, post it in the Cabal, tag me in it so that I can see, and then I'll leave you with the extra, because I promised some extra entries. If you've made it all the way to the end of this 10-part series and the end of the very last video, let's do, if you can somehow work in the word potato into your comments, then you will be given an extra entry. So everybody else that hasn't listened to this part gets 5 entries. You have this bonus entry opportunity. Leave whatever comment you'd like to. Just work in the word potato. Thank you so much for watching all 10 episodes. If you haven't watched all 10, you've got plenty to go back and catch up on. Make sure you're liking, sharing, and subscribing. And until next time, stay strong.